I'm going to give Nick a shot, and I hope he pulls this off, because he's me. He's me. Because already, from what I'm hearing and reading and stuff up there, that he blew his press conference or this or that. Who cares? Can the guy coach? Can the team relate to him? Will he be able to capture the locker room? Will he be able to make the adjustments? Will he be able to take what's given him and make that a viable team and make it a winning team? And time will tell.
But we got Vince on the line, so excited to have him. Vince Papale, welcome to Birds 365.
Good morning. Let me straighten out my camera. Hey, welcome, guys. What's up? Welcome to. We're down in Jupiter, Florida, right here. So welcome to my invincible studios. What's going on, man? Jody, it's been a while, my brother. How's everything going?
It has, Vince. Good to see you. Look like you're enjoying the Florida life. And how deep did you have to go in the drawer to come up with the Eagles T-shirt?
This is it, man, right here. This is the invincible one. What do you think of this logo, right? So there's a great story behind the Who's Nuts. This is the T-shirt that we used to get from Kenny Iman on special teams. After a game, they would give the game ball and sing the song about hoorah, hoorah. But for us special teamers, they gave us T-shirts, and these things were more valuable than you could possibly imagine. If you earned a Who's Nuts T-shirt, that was pretty special. So I actually sell these on my website, papale.com, but I'm not here to sell it. I think we're a little crazy right now, that's all. So everybody's nuts after about 16 months of this bullshit that we're going through right now.
I hear you, Vince, but you mentioned special teams. I think that's interesting because your story is such a great one. They made it, obviously, into a Hollywood film, so it doesn't happen every day. But when you look forward in football and how it's evolved, could your story even happen today? Because
I don't think so, John. I don't know under the way things are structured right now. I'm just watching my son Vinny, who just walked out to go train down in Boynton Beach, and he's heading out to Indy for the developmental league. And him trying to get in and some of the things that it's just changed so much. With me back then in Vermeil in 76, first of all, I would never be able to survive under today's rules. I just wasn't that kind of a guy. The way they've taken away the things that I used to do, blocking below the waist, coming from the outside in as a wide receiver and doing a crackback block and some of the techniques that I used when I was playing special teams, we've been outlawed. And so I don't even think that I would have been given that shot. But as you know, and as a prelude, as I was listening to you guys as you were talking, you were talking about general managers and Howie and this and that, just the way the game is structured and the fact that
well, having some Wi-Fi issues, I'm sure they'll get cleared up. Yeah. Vince down in South Florida, so Jupiter, I believe, Jody. So great way. His son Vinny was a star at the University of Delaware. I know Vinny was going to try out for the CFL. The pandemic affected that as well. Well, yeah. I think it was in Montreal, Vince.
Yeah. Good, John. Yeah, good research. He was signed with Montreal. Then what happened is the league was frozen because they needed X amount of millions of dollars from the government. They couldn't get it. So they froze the league. So Vinny opted out of his contract and went out to San Antonio with, of all people, the Jerry Glanville, and he's always got a seat for Elvis. And he played under Jerry for the last for 3 games. And then the league, because of COVID, the league shut down. It's re-entered, and he actually is getting his last workout right now, heading down to Boynton. And he'll be heading out to Indy for a 6-game season. It's going to be a split. They're going to have 4 teams in Houston, 4 teams in Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, and he's going to continue to play with Jerry Glanville. So they're going to throw him in the slot, and it's a developmental league, and maybe somebody will see him. And the CFL is another option, but the CFL now they've postponed their season until August 3rd, and that's a great opportunity for Vin because he did opt out. There's a possibility he can get back into the CFL. And then the XFL is coming up. So we'll see. He'll give it another run. But I know he's NFL caliber, and it's just getting that opportunity. And we had a couple tryouts, and then he wound up with a sports hernia. So we had to take care of that. But he's running a 4.4. I mean, a legit 4.4. So and he's got hands like Spider-Man. So, and pretty smart. He's a lot smarter than his old man. That's for damn sure.
Vince, I want to ask you about trying out. You just talked about how your son is in that mode. You were in it years ago with the Philadelphia Eagles. We've been talking about it a lot this week leading up to the NFL draft, that the teams didn't get a chance to try out and work out players as much as they wanted to. They're doing a lot more Zoom interviewing than they are actually watching guys work out. No combine this year and the like. Yeah, you got to try out. You had to get in your car and you had to drive over to the vet and or wherever the Eagles were working out. What's that like? Knowing that you're going to get to, quote unquote, try out for a professional football team. Prior to it, you had been out of the mix. You weren't the guy knocking on the door, coming out of college. It wasn't the normal route to get into the NFL. What were your nerves like when you found out that you were going to have a chance to show your wares to the team you grew up rooting for?
Well, it's a great question, Jody. First of all, I didn't have nerves back then, you know. So when I was playing semi-pro football, and that's what sort of led. I had a stint with the World Football League, the Philadelphia Bell, and the legendary King Corcoran was our quarterback. And anyway, with that tryout that Coach Ramil had, that was a whole different ball game, and it was right over. It was at Municipal Field, and it was right now where the arena is. That actually, my daughter Gabriella works with the 76ers. She's down here. You're talking about remote and cyber and Zooms. One of the things, and I'll get back to the tryout. One of the things that a Zoom can't see, and one of the things that you can't appreciate right now, like you can't appreciate how beautiful it is around here, right outside of. Yeah. I'm actually in my garage, so I have my garage door open, and I'm looking at something that's it's idyllic. You can't appreciate that on a Zoom. If you have a guy coming off the line of scrimmage, whatever it might be, you just can't appreciate the explosion. And just a little subtleness of things that are going on that you can see when you're right there with that person. And that's one of the things that's lost. But this is the way the NFL says it has to be done, and that's the way they're going to do it. With us, we had at Municipal Field, where the arena is right now. That was the old JFK Stadium where they had stock car races. There were about 300 or 400 guys there. And actually at that one, what they did is I had the opportunity to go into the Eagles locker room and change. And they were going to put me in a jersey. And the jersey they gave me, of all things, was number 83. And it turned out that it was one of my favorite players. Tommy McDonald was my idol. But it was a number of a guy that passed just recently, Pete Pihos, who was a member of the 50 team and the 60 team. And I just loved it. But I got a chance, guys, to go into the locker room. And now imagine, I'm a season ticket holder from Franklin Field to the vet to now being in that locker room. I just walking around. I was in awe. There was Carmichael's locker. There's Bergey's locker. There's Roman Gabriel's locker. And I said, oh, my God, I can't even believe I'm there. That, I think, got me more excited than anything. And when I popped the 40 and I did the 4.5 in grass, I figured, okay, hey, whatever, things will move to the next drill. And the next drill, I said, let's go on the 7-on-7. We went to 7-and-7. It was just like the bar league, touch leagues that I was playing in the rain with car lights up, and just playing every Thursday night and Sunday morning. I would actually play on a Sunday morning in the bar league and then go on a train with my buddies, the guys that are featured in the movie, which is true. We would jump in a train and go to Franklin Field and watch the Eagles play. And they were pretty. That was Joe Q. Harrett's days. So Joe must go, if you remember. But I really didn't think after it was all over that I'd get that opportunity, But here's what really did happen in the movie. And you see this jersey right behind me here. That's a USA jersey that my wife Janet wore. She was not a Giants fan. She was on the USA gymnastics team and was with Kathy Rigby in that team. But Vermeil came up to me we were in the elevator, and Jody and John, you guys have been at the vet. Remember the elevator be going up and down, I'm in that elevator, and Coach Vermeil came up and he said, hey, Vince, what's up? That was a great time. That was a great 40 you just ran. He said, you know what you ran? I said, I know it's in the 4 or something. I don't know. And he said, you ran a 4.5. He said, you were the top guy out there. Wow. I said, where'd you go to school? And I was 30 now, and I didn't play college football. I went to St. Joe's on a track scholarship. And I froze a little bit. I said, well, it's a Temple. And I didn't realize that's why the Temple didn't have a football team either. This is a guy from the West Coast. I mean, what the hell does he know, right? So they said, well, how old are you? And I was 30, and I'm 24. So, and that was it. And then I was in, and I'm showering now. You actually got a chance to shower, for whatever reason, and I'm showering, and Otho Davis, the ultimate prankster, says, hey, Coach Vermeil, the general manager wants to see you in the executive offices. You know how to get there? And I said, no. And he said, well, go in the elevator, go up to the 4th floor. And I go there, and I walk past Coach Vermeil's office, and he goes, oh, Vinny, how you doing? That was a great workout. And I walk into Jimmy Murray's office, and they offer me $21,000 to be a Philadelphia Eagle. My first question, I said, do I have to give up my season tickets?
You should ask for a discount. Little did you know. You probably could have saved a couple bucks.
The rest is history. In the movie, they had it so, and Mark Wahlberg, by the way, and God bless his mother. He just lost his mom.
Yeah.
And Mark just did a terrific job. But in the movie, they had me, I had 4 days to get to training camp, and I was trying to get myself in shape in that 4-day period, for the training camp. Actually, I got an opportunity to train with Roman Gabriel, Gus Hoffling. Remember Jody, Gus Hoffling? He trained Mike Schmidt.
The Phillies trainer, right?
Phillies
yeah.
Steve
Carlton.
Yeah. And with all so I got a chance to train with Gus Hoffling for 4 months, and with Roman Gabriel. And Gabe used to throw. He would have me running routes, and I'd be catching with Gabe at the vet every day for 4 months prior. Then in the afternoon, I would part-time bartend, or I would substitute teach, and that's where the movie picked it up. But they didn't have me training with Roman and all that. When I got to training camp, and that was in 76, and training camp was before the 4th of July. Dick brought in all the rookies and free agents and a couple of the quarterbacks, and he brought Gabe in. So against the rookies and free agents, now these kids are 20, 22, 23 years old, and I'm 30. And Gabe's throwing to me. I was killing it, and everything, just killing it. And then the vets came in, and it was a whole different story. And I backed off because I was in such awe that I was on the field with Billy Bradley, and some of these guys that were idols of mine. And Vermeil actually told me, so get your head out of your butt, you're gone. And he said, I'm going to give you 2 weeks to get yourself back together. He said, I want to see the same Vince Papale I saw last week against those other guys. Don't you think you can compete against the guys who are on the field now? I said, I know I can, Coach. He said, well, why don't you pick it up? He said, they were 2-11 or 2-12 last year, for crying out loud. And I said, well, they're my idols. He said, they're your idols? You better pick a new set of idols. And they, as they say, and then, the last cut came, and there I was. I was still standing.
You mentioned the Hollywood aspect. Your time at St. Joe's, they don't bring up, obviously, but you were a heck of a track star at St. Joe's. When you look back, how much did that help you in your transition to trying to make the NFL? Or was it the World League experience, the semi-pro experience? Did that give you the confidence? But you had a good foundation as an athlete.
Yeah, John, I think so. And I did play a little bit of football, 1 year of high school football anyway. And in those rough touch leagues and the World League, as I said, I think the track league, if anything, it just taught me how to work hard, and to be more of a teammate. Because I came in as a pole vaulter out of high school. I was 1.5 feet off the 16 feet world record, and I never pole vaulted before. I used to pole vault across the creek in the housing project in Glen Olden that I used to live in. I would just stick a bamboo pole right in the middle of the creek, and then just go from one bank to the other. And but that led to that. And then when I got in with St. Joe's, Coach Kevin Quinn had me doing 5 events every meet. So I got and then eventually what that did, here's what that happened. Then I became the head coach at Interborough High School, my alma mater, where I was teaching, head track coach. But I was trying to qualify for the Olympic trials, actually, in the decathlon. And I think that experience, because I found out that I had the skills in other events, that potentially I thought I could be an Olympian. but it didn't happen for whatever reason. And but gave me that confidence. And actually, I worked so hard in doing what I did. I was just in tremendous shape. I was in better shape than anybody that walked on the field in Vermeil's camp. And I think, if anything, it was that work ethic that I was taught back then that I'm not sure a lot of guys want to adhere to right now. Coach Vermeil has the greatest saying, says nobody ever drowned in sweat. And then and an opportunity is worth what you want to put into it, the preparation you want to put into it. So I figured, well, I got the chance of a lifetime. I'm going to work my butt off, and nobody's going to work harder than me. And I think that's one of the reasons I made the team. I was saying to Vinny. Vinny was working out the other day with Teddy Bridgewater and another NFL quarterback, and he kept jumping in front of line with 5 or 6 other NFL receivers, not to be mentioned. And I said, I told him after the workout, I said, Vinny, I'm so proud of you for doing that. He said, why is that? I said, well, we had 13 wide receivers at training camp, and I used to jump in line every time I'd run a rep. I would go and I'd jump second or third in line because the other guys were so gassed, and they would thank me. They would thank me for giving them a rep break, not knowing that on film that night that when they kept looking, 83 kept popping up every third route. 83 was 83, 83. And, it's like, what do you do when you're running and you're jogging and you come to a red light and you're in the street? You going to stop, or are you going to continue to run? I love to watch guys. You see them running in circles, and that was me. And, back then it was just getting that opportunity and taking the reps and the work ethic that I got because I was a track guy.
Vince, it's funny. You made me think of something with one of the points you were making about working out at the vet. We've got varying ages that watch our show here, from guys who watched you from the day you stepped onto the vet turf as an Eagle for the first time, and some of our listeners who don't even know what Veteran Stadium was, that they've only been following the Eagles since they were in Lincoln Financial Field. I got here in the mid-vet run when the vet was getting past its usable stage and eventually needed to be raised. I was there that night doing Eagle pregame show when they canceled an exhibition game because the turf was so bad. The Ravens said, we're not taking our players out onto that field. So there are lots of stories about the vet. But you were there in the early years. Was it as bad as it eventually was? It always a bad turf to try and play on, or did you like it, or was it conducive to running as fast as you did? What was the vet like in its early stages with its turf?
Well, for me, I was so excited, Jody, about being anywhere that had NFL tag to it that you would have thought those greens. I mean, that field was like a green at the Masters at Augusta, as far as I was concerned. It was sacred ground. And you speak of it. If I go in the back, I could in 10 seconds I could run out there and pick up a remnant of the vet. Of the turf itself, it was grass. It was just, they called it AstroTurf because it was the first place it was used was the Astrodome in Houston, and then there was a little layer of rubber about that much, maybe a half inch, 3 inch, 3/4 of an inch, and that was it. And then they would have zippers that zip it back together because it was one of those multi-stadiums and it was actually a guy that was the same one, basically the same run. It was out there in Cincinnati, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, and one other city had that same kind of a thing where you had your baseball and your football, and the stands would roll in and out. And I also have out back 2 of the seats from the vet, which is pretty cool. So the remembrance. I almost wore a shirt that said, Jody, I almost wore a shirt today that said Veteran Stadium on it, that I have, and I'm very proud of when I'm around here. And there's so many Philadelphians in Jupiter. Everybody walks up, hey man, where'd you get that shirt? So, but it was an experience, and it was our field, and you definitely had the home field advantage when you were at the vet.
Yeah. What about that home field advantage, Vince? I mean, people talk about the vet and they talk about the intimidation part of it. I mean, a lot of it has to do with when you guys were good versus when you weren't as good. But how difficult was it for an opponent to come into Veterans Stadium?
Well, it'd be difficult in many respects. You had to get used to the wind, especially for kickers, because of the way they had that one tunnel set up in right field. And that was it. But, when you're talking about, John, talk about intimidation, the only person that could allow you to get intimidated is yourself. So it's a matter of the mindset that you have when you walk out there on that field. it's legendary about the Santa Claus thing and the snowballs. I mean, that was a guy that was 120 pounds, and he was totally lit. And the reason that people were throwing snowballs at him because he was harassing the cheerleaders at halftime. That's what that was all about. But things being thrown. I've had beers thrown at me. I've been at some of the best stadiums out there, and listen, it happens in every stadium where they throw stuff at you. They can't now because they take away anything that could hurt anyone. But the intimidation factor then was it was the bowl. And it was loud, and when and if we made a big play, it got pretty noisy. But I think more than anything, the home field advantage was just how bad the turf was, and that would get into their mindset. It was slippery, it was hard, abrasive. You'd have second-degree burns all the time in your elbows and knees, and that was our field. To me, it was my Taj Mahal. And when they used to call it a dump, it pained me because it was my dump, and I remember dumps because my dad used to go through junkyards, for crying out loud, to get parts for his car, he'd get parts for the refrigerator. So dumps were a part of my life. So I'm sorry to have seen it going. And now we have all these beautiful complexes and billions of dollars, and take you back to the good old days every once in a while. That would be fun.
I want to take you back to the good old days and your relationship with your head coach when you were a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. Dick Vermeil was new, coming from college. Some people questioned whether he was going to be an NFL head coach or not and be able to succeed. We're going through the same thing now to a slightly different effect, but there are some similarities with Nick Sirianni. Never coached before, young guy, a lot of exuberance, a lot of personality. There are parallels to be drawn between Sirianni and Coach Vermeil. You had a special relationship with the coach, the way that he handled his business, the way that he did things. For yourself and your teammates you got to experience in the locker room, did his motivational tactics work? Was upbeat and emotional and being able to show your emotions on your sleeve? Did that work in the National Football League back then? Do you think it can still work today in 2021?
Well, it was interesting you say. That's a great question, Jody. And there's so many different parts to it. And when Dick had first come in, and there's that scene in the movie, they're talking about the college guy coming in from the West Coast and this and that, and all the exuberance that he had. And Dick had a whole bunch of different ideas, and he was one of the first into working the numbers game, the odds that are so huge in the game right now. And Dick was always ultra enthusiastic, but what he did is he believed in really long practices. And and when I'd go into the locker room and I'd hear guys that were bitching and moaning about how tough to practice, how long the practice was, that was music to my ears. And I would just keep my mouth shut and figure, okay, some of these guys are literally going to cut themselves because of their attitude. One thing I was really impressed with Coach Vermeil, aside from his energy, I mean, he was boundless energy, and we are still today the very, very closest of friends. And right to my left here is a wine cooler that has about 2 cases of Vermeil wine in it, for crying out loud. And his energy level and his knowledge. I would sit back there and watch him go in an offensive session and go through every play with every player without a note as to what he was supposed to do and what his adjustments were supposed to do based upon how the defense was going to be and what the adjustment had to be made at that particular time. So his knowledge and preparation, I don't think anybody could ever compare to that, And then there was that enthusiasm, which should have wore off when the season went on because his practices were pretty heavy. And then when he brought Sid Gilman in and a few other guys, and they just said, maybe you want to just listen a little bit more to this guy and to that guy and give some autonomy to your assistant coaches. And then things really started to gel, and you could see the team, the energy level lift up. And it was, Dick, they're always talking, and he's legendary as a crier. He'd shed a tear every once in a while. And it didn't bother us. And, we had no problem with that because they were all tears of joy and excitement. And I'm that guy. I'm that emotional guy. And now we got, Sirianni coming in, and a whole different ball game though, because, back then, Dick, when he was with Mr. Toast, he demanded complete autonomy. This is the way it goes. I'm going to be the one that's running the show. And right now, as we know, it's a little bit different setup the way it is. And it'll be interesting to see the kind of freedom that Nick's going to have, and how he's going to be able to run things. And I'm very disappointed. Doug Peterson, I'd go back to 1999 when he was a player, for crying out loud. I mean, and he's actually lives down here right around the corner from me now. And he's biding out his time. I would have loved to have seen him there. I mean, he did bring us that trophy, for crying out loud. But I'm going to give Nick a shot, and I hope he pulls this off. Because he's me. He's me. Because already, from what I'm hearing and reading and stuff up there, that he blew his press conference or this or that. Who cares? Can the guy coach? Can the team relate to him? Will he be able to capture the locker room? Will he be able to make the adjustments? Will he be able to take what's given him and make that a viable team and make it a winning team? And, time will tell, and we'll see. And I just hope the veterans, like our veterans did, when we had Bergie and Billy Bradley and Harold and Charlie Smith and whomever, I hope the players today will give this guy the opportunity to prove himself. And it's going to be pretty interesting to watch. I'm pretty excited. Actually, I'm coming back up next week to Philly for a while, and I'm actually moving I'm moving out of Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and moving into Queen Village in Philadelphia. So I'm going to be a true and blue Philadelphian again, which I'm very excited about. So I'm going to.
We're not excited. We're both South Jersey guys. So I'm Stratford, Vinny. Jody is Marlton, so we're right with you there in Cherry Hill. So we're sad to see you go.
Right there, PJ Wellhands. That's my favorite pitch right there. Yeah, I love it there. So, but what you can get when you get there, it's a whole different. You're going to hate it down here. I mean, there's no restriction. I actually walked into a restaurant the other day, and the guy said, "What are you wearing a mask for?" He said, "We don't wear masks here." I said, "Oh my God, Uncle Eddie's."
Yeah. You got to get used to it up here. But
Tony, you'll appreciate this. A bunch of New Yorkers down in Jupiter running a place called Uncle Eddie's. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm sure you got a couple Met fans down there.
We got a lot of Eagle fans down here. We got a place called the Eagles Bars, and they still have that strong base. We're still all a little bit crazy, but it's pretty fun. Yeah.
Hey, Vince, you mentioned Doug because he's in South Florida. His son Josh is potentially going to be drafted next week. So you guys got a lot of common with Benny trying to make his way into the NFL. I did, want to last one for you. I know you got to run, but 1960, Doug Peterson gets this team to the Lombardi Trophy. We were just talking before you came on about a dispensation card, so to speak. Did you think he would have had a longer rope before the criticism started to turn on Doug a little bit?
Yeah, wherever I would have, regardless of whether it's Doug or whomever, on Black Friday became one of the Black Monday in the NFL, they call it, I guess, it would became a victim of the Turk. I think with all that had to go through this year, with the COVID, I think that's an automatic mulligan as far as I'm concerned. Anybody that had to deal with that, and then when you look at the injuries and the other stuff, obviously there was some philosophical and issues within the organization, and so they decided to make the change, and that's their right to do that. That's the as the CEO, as the general manager, of all these things, and the president, that's their right. They're the ones that are making the paycheck. But hey, I think that anybody last year, especially with the quarterback that lost his confidence and was broken down and lost the locker room, I think maybe it would have been nice to see what he could have done with a full season without having to, especially imagine the preparation that you're going through right now. I can't imagine, like Vinny, I was just watching the other day. Vinny was doing a session with his offensive coordinator out for the team he's playing with. And just the difference of sitting in a classroom and going through that session as opposed to sitting in front of a computer just by yourself. There's a whole different ball game. And the fact that you can't have OTAs. And aside from the rhythm and all the other things that you would do on the field, it's the camaraderie that's developed with your teammates. That is so very important. And I think there are a lot of people forget that. It's who do you play for? You don't just play for yourself. You play for the guy next to you. And who is this guy? Well, I don't know. I haven't met him yet. I mean, we haven't been together. We haven't gone out and had a few beers. back then, like let's say in training camp, back then, we would go to this place called the campus casino. We were at Wider College, and this place it was probably about the size of this garage here, but we would have 45 guys in the campus casino having a couple of beers after practice, everybody together and the team together. And it's those kinds of things and the camaraderie you develop as a team together in the locker room. And the fact that you can't do that now is I think, debilitating. So, hey, listen, anybody I think should have gotten a mulligan, but it is what it is. And, we'll see what happens next year when there's going to be another Black Monday. But I can tell all you Eagle fans out there, Doug's at peace, and he's very happy. And his son, Josh, he's real excited about Josh, and we'll see where he goes. And, man, I tell you what, the kid is a stud. He can run. He's 6'4", 6'5", and he got great hands, really smart, and as his dad's instincts, been coached by the best. So, hey, we'll see.
Good to hear Doug's doing well. Last thing, Vince. If someone wanted a What's Nuts T-shirt, how could they get their hands on them? Yeah. Where would they be getting those T-shirts, my friend?
Well, there's you can go to VincePapale.com and it'll come right to me. And also I have this book out here. It's called The Last Laugh and Vision of Victory. This is Denny Franks. There was a hit I made against the Redskins, and they took a picture on the sideline, and our heads are thrown back, and we're all excited. And that picture wound up in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and it's called The Last Laugh. And the last laugh is what any one of us have been through when we were told we're going to be in broadcasting, we're going to do this, we're going to try out for the Eagles. That's what it's about. So that's The Last Laugh. VincePapale.com. Anything. We got books. We got everything you could possibly imagine. But, man, it's really great to connect with you guys. And I'll be up in Jersey next week. Get a hold of me. Tell Krause to get a hold of me. We'll go over to We'll go to
PJ's.
We'll
Champs up in Marlton. You're up in Marlton, and we'll go to Pete. We'll go to Pete Chiraki's up there, and we'll hang out.
Hop, skip, and a jump. Vince, great to catch up. Good to see you. Tell Vince Jr. we send our regards. Thanks for a couple of minutes with us here today.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Thanks, John. And hey, Krause, I love you, brother. I miss you and MC in the soul. Nobody did it better than him. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later.
That is the legendary Vince Papale here with us on Birds 365. One of a kind and a story like none other in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We got an hour in the books, an hour left to play. Big part of that hour will be spent with former Eagles executive, now one of the forerunners in the sports business industry. Andrew Brandt's going to join us here on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.